Hello, I'm Neil Shearer. I'm an attorney, art dealer, and sports enthusiast. A number of years ago, I joined my two passions, sports and art, creating one-of-a-kind displays celebrating individual and team achievements, as well as special moments. You know, it's great to have a single autograph, single program, single ticket, but our feeling is when you join these items together, you tell a story, and in actuality, you show a piece of art. So I'm going to start off our show and our exhibit with our work celebrating the great Mickey Mantle, the hero of my father's generation, and I was fortunate in 1967 to see him hit his 513th home run off of Bill Dillman of the Baltimore Orioles. One of the great feats of Mickey Mantle was hitting 18 home runs in World Series play, which still remains the record. So we have in this one-of-a-kind display are the tickets from every World Series game Mantle hit a home run in. And in addition to that, we have the autograph underneath each ticket of the pitcher the home run's off of. So it's really kind of special. Again, in the World Series play, you're not only going against the best teams, but often the best pitchers. So we got Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson and Sal Maglie and Preacher Rowe, among some of the great baseball pitchers that Mantle connected off of. Also, another thing about Mantle, as we've had the show here, by the way, I do displays that are often at museum shows around the country. They're at high-end clubs like it is now. We've also been at some important venues in New York Cities, including Bloomingdale's, Thomas Moser, Steuben Glass, to do exhibitions. And this is something that maybe down the road you and your company might be interested in. In any event, getting back to Mr. Mantle, one of the things that struck me was how often people would come over and say, you know, I hated the Yankees, but I love Mickey Mantle. And it's not often you hear that. Generally, you hate the team, you hate the whole team. He was very charismatic, perhaps Michael Jordan, perhaps Derek Jeter. But again, he had that ability, and people really love this piece. It's one of our featured items here at this current exhibition. And again, we also wanted to show the imagery is important. So what you see here is a very young, very intense, very handsome Mickey Mantle. You know, it's often pitchers can intimidate the hitter, but I would think if I was looking at this gentleman with that face as a pitcher, I'd be pretty intimidated myself. So again, we'd like to start off with Mickey Mantle. We think it's appropriate, and let's move on. In our last display, we explored Mickey Mantle and his 18 World Series home runs. Of course, he was only one half of the M&M team of Mantle and Maris. And Maris in 1961 broke the unbreakable record of Babe Ruth that had lasted since 1927 with 60 home runs. So let's explore this in this one-of-a-kind display. On the upper left-hand corner, we show Roger Maris stepping on home plate, an original wire photo, after hitting his 60th home run, being greeted by Elson Howard. Imagine knowing that now you're tied with Babe Ruth. That just got to be an unbelievable feeling. The upper right corner is the 61st that breaks the record. And not only do we have his autograph, but I like to show this image because of the muscularity in Mr. Maris's arms. You almost feel if it hits his arm and not the bat, it will still be a home run. Again, that put him in the record books, and many people still believe that is the single season home run record. I'm one of them, actually. Here's the great Babe Ruth, an autograph, and the ticket from 1927, the day Ruth hit his 60th home run. The program for Maris's 60th home run scored by somebody at the game. The program for Maris's 61st home run scored by somebody at the game. And of course, we like the mustard stains, the ketchup stains in our scored programs. We don't want somebody who fills it out 10 years later in perfect penmanship. We want you to bring you into the game. The ticket from his 60th home run, the ticket from his 61st home run. We tell the story of Roger Maris breaking the record. These are all authenticated artifacts as we try to do our best to authenticate every item that we have in our pieces. In addition, if that's not enough, we have the autograph of Tracy Stallard, the pitcher gave up the home run, and Sal Durante, the kid who caught the ball and received something like $5,000 or so for the ball, which paid for his honeymoon and a down payment on his house. And again, here is our one-of-a-kind display celebrating Roger Maris' 61st home run. Let's move on now to the greatest ball player of all time in most people's judgment, Babe Ruth. In the first two displays we showed Mickey Mantle's 18 World Home Runs. Well, the Babe's record of 15 was eclipsed in 1963 by Mantle in World Series game against the Cardinals when he hit a home run off of Barney Schultz for his 16th home run. Ruth had that record at 15. Then we showed you Maris breaking his record in 61 with 61 home runs. Well, the Bambino does have some records that he still holds, and one of them is hitting 3 home runs in 2 World Series games. The first being in 1926 and the second in 1928. In this display, we celebrate that moment. The 26 game is particularly interesting because a young boy named Johnny Sylvester is sick and asked Babe Ruth to hit a home run for him. The Bambino not only hits 1 home run, but hits the 3 home runs. Interestingly enough, Sylvester actually gets healthy, and when Ruth is dying, Mr. Sylvester, at least some accounts have it, visits Mr. Ruth at his hospital bed. Interesting. Well, what do we have here to celebrate that great moment? We have, first of all, the autographs of the pitchers who gave up the home run. Here in 1926, there were Flint Rem and Herman Bell. We also have the autograph of the umpire, Bill Clem, who was actually a Hall of Fame umpire, and again, a rare ticket stub from 1926. In 1928, in the upper right-hand corner, we show the autographs of Wee Willie Trudell and the great Grover Cleveland Alexander, who is a very hard autograph to get in a Hall of Famer, as well as Charles Furman, the umpire. Now, some people say, why do you need an umpire? We probably could have gotten away without the umpire. But, you know, they're important aspects of the game. They make the calls. And in 1928, it's very important because Charles Furman, after Ruth had hit a home run early in the game, in the 7th inning, Ruth comes up, and it's an 0-1 count. The ball is slightly outside, or at least Ruth thinks so, but Furman still calls it a strike. At that moment, there's an argument between Ruth and Furman. And during the argument, the catcher for the Cardinals, Eddie Smith, tosses the ball to the pitcher, Wee Willie Trudell, who throws it right down the middle, strike 3, while Ruth is having his argument with Cy Furman. Well, you know, the National League actually allowed the quick pitch in 1928. The American League did not. It's kind of like the DH rule was for many years in the American League and National League. So you would think, being a National League ballpark, Sportsman Park in St. Louis, that Furman would have allowed the pitch to remain and strike 3 and Ruth is out. He overruled that, and he nullified the pitch. I suspect it was because he was part of the argument and didn't want to be part of the game and be part of the issue. In any event, a couple pitches later, Ruth hits his 2nd home run, and then the next inning hits his 3rd. I don't do this piece. History's different. So that's why we wanted Charles Furman in it. Now, also, you know, people ask me, how do I get these autographs, or how do we get these autographs? Well, to get a Ruth and a Garrick, of course, they're out there. They're quite expensive, but they're out there. But get a Charles Furman, well, who has a Charles Furman? It took almost 3 years to get that, and then when we did get it, the first time anyway, the gentleman who we paid for it called me up and said, Neil, I'm going to return your money. And I asked why. He said, well, I can't find the autograph. Of course, I said, look harder, I need that. But he did return the money, and eventually we found somebody else who had one, and that's how we were able to complete the piece. So you know more about Charles Furman than you probably thought you'd ever learn. Then we have, again, the ticket. Vintage tickets, of course, are very important to me, and they've had grown exponentially in value over the last few years, principally because you don't get hard tickets anymore. You either get the StubHub, which is kind of a lousy ticket, or you get the ticket in the phone. So hopefully hard tickets will come back, but maybe not. Then, of course, we have the scored programs from the game from 28, from 26. I think those are pretty impressive to have that. We're happy to have it and to include that. And, of course, we have the autograph of Babe Ruth. Everything, again, is authenticated. And then we have these great articles talking about Ruth, vintage articles talking about his 26 exploits and his 28 exploits. And finally, imagery is important to us. At this point in 1928, Ruth is an aging Ruth. He's not the baby-faced Ruth that he was with the Red Sox and even early in his Yankee career. And so we felt we got the image accordingly. I just want you to know that that image is not a photo. It's actually a painting by an artist named Adam Port that we use, and I think it's just perfect for this piece. And I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to do this type of piece again. It took over 3 years to do, which in retrospect, it's actually pretty quick, I think. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this piece celebrating Babe Ruth's great accomplishment. The last few pieces that we discussed dealt with records of people over career or multiple games. But sometimes a single game, even a single bat, could define a person's career and lead them to a legacy that will live throughout their history of the game. One such moment occurred in 1978. I'm a freshman at the University of Wisconsin. My roommates are Red Sox fans, and the Yankees, of course, and the Red Sox have another one of their battles. And they finish tied at the end of the year, and they have to play a one-game playoff game in Fenway Park. And the unlikeliest hero of them all for the Yankees is a gentleman named Bucky Dent, who hits a dramatic home run to catapult the Yankees to victory. And of course, in Boston, he's not very well liked. In fact, they often use the term Bucky effing Dent to describe him. And here what we have is a wonderful photo of Dent making impact when he hits a home run. And he talks about that play in about 3 or 4 paragraphs. It's really fun to read. What we also have in this display are the autographs of all the Red Sox who played in that game on 78 cards. And, you know, they had a wonderful team with Carl Yastrzemski, of course, Lynn, Rice, Fisk, great team. The Yankees, on the other hand, on the other side, we have all their autographs of all their players on 78 cards. Sadly, Thurman Munson died in a plane accident later on, so we got his autographs separately. People of today basically know Don Zimmer as the bench coach for the New York Yankees, but he was actually the manager of the Red Sox on that fateful day for Boston Nation. Here he is shown on the program for that day. Bucky Dent signs the hard ticket. Again, hard tickets are something that you just don't get as much these days, if at all. Greg Nettles makes the catch of Yastrzemski to end the game. I know he was an old Yastrzemski, but he was still Yastrzemski, and I was scared to death when he came up at that in the 9th inning. Bucky Dent being greeted by his teammates, the guys I grew up with, Chambliss and Roy White, and they're excited. I think they're also shocked, as the nation was, that Dent hit the home run. And even a piece of the Green Monster signed by Mike Torres, the pitcher, and Bucky Dent, celebrating that moment. So this is really a spectacular piece. I will say one thing. Originally, it was a mistake that we almost decided to take out, but in retrospect, we thought it was important to keep in. If you notice this photo here, it shows this gentleman in the number 20 uniform jumping up and down, and it's on a dark day, on a nighttime scene. That is not from the game. Obviously, Bucky Dent never hit many home runs, so he would have ran as hard as he could to first base, and he would never jump up and down like that. Also, obviously, the game was played in daytime. However, this is the most recreated game. Fans paid to recreate this moment. And in retrospect, because of that and the fact that it still has such importance, even today, many years later, we decided to keep it in there just to give the impact of what this game not only meant to the Yankees, but what it meant to Bucky Dent.